Good morning, this is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel. So I continue on my part series, the week that was college football season review, the 1974 college football season. This is week one, but overall I'm going to go over the overview of the 1974 college football season and go over some of the milestones and the winning streaks that was brought into the 1974 season, as well as the coaching changes, the preseason poll, as well as week one, the games that are played on September the 7th, 1974. So let's get into it. The 1974 college football season was the year of Oklahoma's half-ignored title, Rose Bowl rubber match, and Michigan's bowlless seniors. Oklahoma went undefeated in becoming the first preseason number one team in the AP poll to go on to win the title since 1956, the year the Sooners last won a national championship. This edition of the Pride of Norman failed to go wire to wire, however, dropping out of the top spot by September 16th, due largely to the weakness of its early schedule. In probationary jail levied after the faulty recruitment of quarterback Kerry Jackson, the Sooners were a troublesome choice for some voters, especially because they weren't able to risk their flawless record in a bowl game. In the end, Oklahoma was the last undefeated team standing, while the high-powered Oklahoma offense that was led by quarterback Steve Davis and halfback Joe Washington received the bulk of the publicity, averaging 508 yards per game, scoring 63 points against both Wake Forest and Kansas State and 72 points against Utah State. The Sooners' defense was equally fantastic. So with Dewey and Leroy Selman leading the defensive line and Rod Schultz continuing as a dominant linebacker, Oklahoma posted 3 shutouts, held every opponent to 14 points or fewer. Oklahoma was ineligible for the UPI title, which for the first time was awarded after the New Year's Bowl games. It seemed awfully odd to have the Sooners heading the AP poll list when the coaches voting in the UPI, half of the national bowl polls were required to completely ignore Oklahoma. Recovering well after an opening loss to Arkansas, Southern California won the UPI championship as Alabama, which would have won a pre-bowl title, lost to Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. The Trojans coach John McKay joined Frank Leahy and Bear Bryant as the only coaches to win or share 4 titles since the AP and UPI began polling in 1936 and 1950 respectively. USC, featuring 14 players drafted by the NFL the following season, needed a late 2-point conversion pass by Rhodes Scholar Ernie signal caller named Pat Hayden for a 18-17 win over Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. The play brought back memories of USC's failed attempt in the 1967 Rose Bowl loss to Purdue. The Orange Bowl also was notable for being the first final contest that was coached by Ara Parseghian, who resigned as an exhausted, if highly successful coach at Notre Dame in December. He finished his career as a coach at 170, 58-6 at Miami of Ohio, Northwestern, and Notre Dame after defining Irish's emotional Orange Bowl victory over then top-ranked Alabama. The Irish had been expected to challenge for a second straight national title, but were limited before the season began by the loss of 10 players, including 7 starters, to major injuries and suspensions. Former Arizona State and Missouri coach Dan Devine was hired almost immediately to fill Parseghian's void in South Bend. Devine, who was rumored to be heading to the University of Washington after 3 years as coach of Green Bay in the NFL, never really escaped the shadow of Parseghian, even though his 1977 team would win the national title. Meanwhile, Washington made a great hire in Don James. Ohio State coach Woody Hayes suffered a heart attack on June 6, but he still led his Buckeyes to a season-end 4th place in the AP balloting. Although behind a Michigan team, he beat 12-10 in November. Woody Hayes felt he had a squad that could be the greatest college football team of all time. Hayes faced Southern California Rose Bowl for a 3rd straight year, and this year's tense rubber match after USC won easily in 1972 and Ohio State easily won in 1973 went to the Trojans. The Rose Bowl also featured another Hayes anger-controlled adventure. He punched his own linebacker Arnie Jones during USC's late game winning drive. Hayes, and for that matter Jones, downplayed the punch, but it stuck as an example of Hayes becoming more out of touch with 1970s athletes. Before the decade was over, Woody Hayes' use of physical force on players would cost him his job. Meanwhile, Michigan graduated a remarkable senior class that powered its way to a 32-1 record for 3 seasons without ever playing in a single bowl game. Although Big Ten reform came too late for the Wolverines, the conference agreed in December to a list of tiebreakers to determine its Rose Bowl representative in the future. Most notably, the conference eliminated the controversial decree that had athletic directors voting to break league title ties for selection of Rose Bowl participation. Such votes had cost Michigan when it tied Ohio State following the 1973 and 74 seasons. In a significant change, permission was granted to worthy non-championship teams to go bowling, a decision that took root in 1975 and in time for Michigan to go to the Orange Bowl that year. Meanwhile, Texas struggled but welcomed heralded freshman fullback named Earl Campbell to his backfield, surprising Baylor under young head coach Grant Teeth became the first Southwest Conference team to follow up a season in which they lost every conference game with the league title. The Bears won their first Southwest Conference crown since 1924 and made their first ever Cotton Bowl appearance. Shut out of any other bowls bid, the Bears needed to beat Rice in the finale to wrap up the conference crown in its automatic Cotton Bowl, were forced to stay home. They happily packed their bags for the short trip to Dallas. Tailback Archie Griffin of Ohio State won the Heisman Trophy to become only the 5th junior to do so, and first since Roger Staubach in 1963. Griffin already owned the Big Ten career rushing record of 4,064 yards, breaking the mark of former Purdue running back Otis Armstrong on October 19th versus Indiana. Archie Griffin, who owned a per-game rushing average of 147.3 yards, ended the regular season with his 22nd straight 100-yard rushing effort. USC's Trojan tailback Anthony Davis finished a distant second, although the majority of Heisman ballots were sent in before an incredible 4-touchdown game against Notre Dame on November 30th. Anthony Davis finished as the Pac-10's all-time leading rusher with 3,657 yards and tops 52 touchdowns. Davis, with 314 points scored, also held the career NCAA record of 6 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Now here are the milestones for 1974. Some of the milestones. First, foremost, blocking below the waist was better defined by rules committee, and goalposts offset behind inline were allowed. UPI Coaches Board decreed that teams on probation weren't eligible for consideration in weekly polls, thus eliminating Oklahoma as candidate for a UPI national title. Let's get into the longest winning streaks entering the 1974 season. Penn State had a 12-game winning streak. Miami of Ohio had a 12-game winning streak. Notre Dame had an 11-game winning streak. The coaching changes that took place for 1974 college football season: Army had a new coach in Homer Smith. Colorado had a new coach in Bill Mallory. Columbia had a new coach in Bill Campbell. Florida State had a new coach in Darrell Mudra. Georgia Tech had a new coach in Pepper Rogers. Hawaii, Larry Price. Iowa, Bob Cummings. Mississippi, Ken Cooper. New Mexico, Bill Mott. Oregon, Don Reed. Syracuse, Frank Maloney. Texas Christian, Jim Schaffner. Texas El Paso, Gil Tosh. UCLA, Dick Vermeil. Utah, Tom Lavatt. Virginia, Sonny Randall. Jimmy Sharp was the new head coach of Virginia Tech. So those were the coaching changes that took place for the incoming coaches. So now here's the AP preseason poll. Looked like this, the top 20. Number 20 was Texas A&M. 19 was Arkansas. Number 18 was North Carolina State. 17 was Arizona. Number 16 was Tennessee. 15 was Arizona State. Number 14, Maryland. 13, Pittsburgh. Number 12, UCLA. Number 11, Houston. The top 10 was number 10, Texas, followed by number 9, Louisiana State. Penn State was number 8. Number 7 was Nebraska. Number 10 was Texas. Number 9, Louisiana State. Number 8, Penn State. Number 7, Nebraska. Number 6 was Michigan. Number 5 was Southern California. Number 4 was Alabama. Number 3 was Notre Dame. Ohio State was number 2. And the preseason number 1 was Oklahoma. So let's get into the week 1 of the college football season, September the 7th, 1974. The season started with Syracuse beating Oregon State by a score of 23-15. Syracuse remained conservative under new coach Frank Maloney, passing only 3 times with 1 completion. 5-yard touchdown toss from quarterback Jim Donahue to tight end Bob Petro. Orange took lead with 16 fourth quarter points that was set up by two interceptions of Beavers quarterback Alvin White, including one return 17 yards for a touchdown by safety Tim Moresco. Oregon State had opened scoring with a 3-yard touchdown run by fullback Dick Morrow before Syracuse scored 23 straight points, due in part to Beavers handing out 5 turnovers. Meanwhile, Orangemen tailback Ken Kinsey ran for 169 yards. Next, North Carolina State, the number 18 team in the country, beat Wake Forest 33-15. Quarterback Dave Bucky led explosive second half performance before Wolfpack, who led only 3-0 at halftime. Bucky threw 2 touchdown passes, 10 yards to tight end B.J. Little, and 31 yards to wide receiver Mike Hardy, and ran for another. Mike Forrest tried mildly with 70-yard touchdown pass connection between freshman quarterback Mike McGlamry and tight end Tom Ferry, but it could not maintain the pace because State dominated the stats, outgaining Deacons 429 yards to 196 yards, but also had 14 penalties for 115 yards. Next, UCLA, the number 12 team in the country, played against Tennessee, number 16 team in the country, and this matchup resulted in a 17-17 tie. Banged up quarterback Condridge Holloway returned from the emergency room late in the third quarter to rally Volunteers with a tying 80-yard scoring drive, capped by his bad shoulder dive into end zone on a 12-yard run. Holloway, who threw 74 yards touchdown to tight end tailback Stanley Morgan, had 139 yards receiving on 4 catches on game's second play before suffering a shoulder injury later in the first half. Also took hit that tore the knee cartilage. Bruins kicker Brett White had opportunity for a hero's call, but shanked 40-yard field goal attempt with 9 seconds left. Meanwhile, Bruins quarterback John Sciarra rushed for 178 yards and completed 15 of 21 for 212 yards and touchdown pass to set the school single game total offensive record. Now, on the first play of the second half, Sciarra raced 71 yards to the Volunteers' 2-yard line, but UCLA was stopped on 4 plays on vital goal line stand. The injuries forced Tennessee freshman quarterback Pat Ryan into game, and regrettably, he flipped 10-0 Volunteers lead into 17-10 their deficit with a series of miscues, including fumble into his end zone recovered by Bruins defensive tackle Rick Kukuliko for touchdown. This game marked something new for television because it was the debut of sideline reporter Jim Lampley, who provided ABC with 11 on-air segments. Arizona State, the number 15 team in the country, beat number 11 Houston in the battle of 2 top 20 teams. Arizona State won 30-9. Having lost explosive backfield to Pro football, Sun Devils were expected to have to rebuild their offense. We'll tell that to Houston after Arizona State sophomore fullback Freddie Williams ran for 178 yards and a touchdowns of 69 yards and 4-yard runs for a touchdown. Latter set up his 73-yard run. Arizona State defense helped in scoring as cornerback Bo Warren and linebacker Bob Bruni scored touchdowns only a minute apart in the third quarter. Warren on a 17-yard interception for a touchdown and 25-yard fumble return by linebacker Bob Bruni. Houston, meanwhile, won yards battle, 362 yards to 320 yards, but suffered 7 turnovers to none for Arizona State. The Cougars of Houston have pulled within 9 points in the third quarter as quarterback Chuck Fairbanks led 72-yard drive to 8-yard scoring run by fullback Donnie Quick Draw McGraw. And on Monday, September the 9th, 1974, Notre Dame, the number 3 team in the country, beat Georgia Tech 31-7. As Georgia Tech had its fans smelling upset with touchdown on the opening drive, but what they smelled after that was their team's poor performance in this game. As quarterback of Notre Dame, Tom Clements completed 10 of 14 for 170 yards and a touchdown pass for Irish, who tied game at 7-7 on a 1-yard run by fullback Wayne Bullock, following fumble by Yellow Jackets on their 14-yard line. With offense gaining 441 yards, Notre Dame easily pulled away, despite losing halfback Art Best to injury. Third halfback lost the Fighting Irish since April. Georgia Tech was held to 174 yards as Coach Pepper Rogers made his debut at alma mater with tailback David Sims running for 177 yards. Excuse me, running for 77 yards. Running for 77 yards. David Sims had 77 yards rushing. So that concludes a look at Week 1 College Football History Review, the 1974 college football season for September 7th, 1974, including the game that was played on September 9th between Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. Let's get the AP polls of September 9th. There was a tie for the 20th spot between Arkansas and Stanford. Number 19 was Houston. Number 18 was Missouri. 17 Arizona. 16 North Carolina State. 16 Tennessee. 14 Maryland. 13 Pittsburgh. UCLA 12. Arizona State 11. The top 10 round out as this: Texas number 10. Number 9 was Louisiana State. Number 8 was Penn State. Number 7 Nebraska. 6 was Michigan. Number 5 Southern California. Number 4 was Arizona State. Number 3 was Alabama. Number 2 Notre Dame. And number 1 was Oklahoma. So that concludes a look at the overview of the 1974 college football season, including all the stuff that I talk about, the milestones, preseason number 1, preseason top 20, the coaching changes and stuff like that in the first week of the college football season. For week 1, September 7th, 1974, the game that was played on September 9th, 1974 between Georgia Tech and Notre Dame. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. Do week 2 tomorrow. Until then, talk to you soon.